Hey, this is Rob from JTRpodcast.com, and this is Alien Artifacts. Look at that artwork. I am a sucker for a white box. And this is basically, it's a tableau building game. Everybody's going to have their own race, and they're going to have some under construction stuff on this side. The red ones are ships, the blue ones are technologies, and the green ones are planets. And they're going to be worked on in order to move them into your empire, which is on this side of your board. And these will give you abilities as the game goes on. So the first thing players need to do is to choose a race, and I've gone with the Bionics here. There are plenty to choose from. They will each have their own special abilities and different setups. So these are all the abilities on this side and all the setups on this side. So I have chosen the Bionics, which is this one. So we put the card down here. And then in turn order, players are going to set up their starting empire. So on this card it says I get one ship, I get one of two technologies, and I get one planet, all under construction. So here are the ship cards. As I said, ships are red. There are plenty of these. And so I get one ship. So I get the top one, which is All Earth. And that goes into my under construction zone. And then there are these technology cards. Again, there's plenty of them. So it says I get one of two. So I get to look at two of them. I get to put one to the bottom. And one goes into my under construction zone. And then finally, the planets. Again, plenty of them. I get one. And that goes into my under construction zone as well. Then once you've set up, it's just a good idea to turn over your cards so you can remind yourself of your special ability. And also every race has its own endgame scoring as well. These are the resource cards, and these are the main cards you're going to be using to buy stuff and do stuff, and they all look like this. They've got two types of resources on, so in this case there are red on here, gold, which is a wild card, green, which is for planets. So everything's color coded: red for ships, blue for technologies, green for planets. That's the same for the resources as well, with gold being a wild card, as I said. Everybody's going to get three of those. That's going to be their starting hand, and you're ready to go. And on your turn, all you do is you take one action and then draw back up to your hand limit. And there are plenty of actions to take. You've got this little helper sheet here. As you can see here, there are the basic actions and the operational actions. So these 7 basic actions are what you're going to be doing most of. These operational actions that are also on your player board you do later on. Some of the cards have abilities that say action. You can use one of those as well. And also you have your special action here. This is the bank, and everybody starts with 8 credits. And one of the actions you can take is to buy a card. So you can buy another ship, technology, or planet. And all you do is you spend 5 money. You take the top one, and then you add it into your under construction area on your board. But if you don't like the top one, you can spend extra. And for every one extra you spend, so I've got 8 money, so say I spend 8. Spent all that. I could look at the top 4. I could choose whichever one I want, and then I could put the rest on the bottom of the deck. And you can do that for any of the 3 types of cards. They all cost the same, and they all have the ability that you can spend extra to look through the top of the deck. You can prepare resources by placing them under a card. So say I want to build this ship, this All Earth ship here. It needs red resources, so I take the red ones from my hand, and I'll just slot them under the card to show that they are related to that card there. You have what's called an assembly limit. So even though I've got 3 cards in my hand, you can only spend 2 to take at a time during an action. So even if I had more red symbols in my hand, I'd still only be able to use 2 cards. Another action you could take is to build a ship, develop a technology, or to discover a planet, and that's the same for all of these. So basically you need 5 resources. So let's just say I want to discover this planet here. This is Hedwig, and this means I need 5 green resources. So I get 5 from my hand, I'll discard them to the discard pile, and then you move the planet to your empire. But you're not done yet, because you have a choice when you do this. But just before I go into the choices you have, I want to just explain that for each one you've got in your empire, it will cost you 1 more. So while it cost me 5 to move Hedwig, if later on I had this 51st planet, it would now cost me 6, because it cost me the base 5 plus 1, so I got 1 here. Then when I move 51st planet over, it's going to cost me 7, etc. So it's going to cost more, and that's the same for all these again. So when you move something from your under construction to your empire, you have a choice. All these cards are double-sided. There's a white side here, and there's a black side on the back. The white side gives you an ability. So in this case, the Hedwig would reduce the cost to build by 2. So it only cost me 3 resources to build a ship in the future if I kept it on that side. This is called the logistics side, the white side. The black side is the operational side, and for a planet it means you can produce. So you would take a card, number of cards, it says produce 3. So you would draw the top 3 resource cards from the deck, and then you would see which ones match the symbol on the card there. So the first one doesn't match. So this one and this one do not match this symbol here. So this would have to go onto the side with the fewest resources, which would be this one. So that would go underneath there, like so. However, the next two do match, so not only do you have to use this end of the card, you couldn't choose to use this end, you would have to use this end, but you'd also score a point for each matching card, so you'd score 2 points and have some pretty decent resources underneath this planet. So that's how planets and producing works. Next up you have technologies. So again, you would pay the cost, you would move it over to this side, and then you've got a choice for the logistics side and the operational side. In the logistics side for technologies, they give you an ability. So this is an ongoing ability that gives you whatever that says there. Some of them have an action, so you need to take an action to use that ability. While others are additionally, and if you've got a card that says additionally on it, then you can take that every action you take from then on. So in this case, you may trade one resource card every action you take, and I'll explain trading shortly. If you flip it over to the logistics side, you'll see it gets a bit more complicated. So you've got all the symbols, you've got 2 lines of things here, and basically it is actually quite straightforward. So here you have a symbol that says during the game. So once you've put this over to your Empire side and you've decided you're using this side of the card, you'll then look to see if you meet any of these criteria. You then flip over a resource card and you'll see if the symbol matches. So again, this is that recycle symbol, which I think means exploit. I can't remember. I've flipped this card, which does have that symbol on, so it matches. So you get to score this column here. So if you had 3 planets of a different type, 3 ships of a different type, and 3 technologies of a different type, you score 2 points. If you had just 3 planets, 3 ships, and 3 technologies, this is all in your Empire, by the way, you would get 1 point. And then some endgame scoring here, which I'll get to at the end. And so what happens if you build a ship? Well, if you're paying attention, you may notice that I have already built the ship because you need 5 resources, remember? I've got 3 here plus 1 here, and this planet that I've newly discovered gives me 2. So now I've got 6, I've got too many. So basically you would automatically complete that. You would discard the resources, put it on this side of the board, and again, you would choose which side you're going to pick. If you choose the logistics side, you're going to get an ongoing ability. If you choose the logistics side, you're going to get to attack. When you attack, you get to choose a player to attack, or you get to choose an alien. If you choose the aliens, there's going to be one of these cards. This is the alien systems card. One of these is going to be revealed, and this is what you'll get for defeating the alien or for attacking the alien. If you choose a player, they may have one of these defense plans in their hand, and they can draw these through various abilities. And this is what you'll get and what will happen to them, or what will happen to you, and what's going to happen basically if you attack that player. If that player doesn't have a defense plan in their hand, they have to use this pretty rubbish basic defense plan, which is going to punish them pretty much no matter what, unless you've only got an attack strength of 1. So how do you work out your attack strength? Well, you would take any ship strength. In this case, this ship doesn't have any strength. You'd add any bonuses from any technology to give you additional strength. In this case, you haven't got any. So then you would draw top card of the deck, and you're looking at the big number in the middle, and that's going to be your attack strength. So in this case, you've got an attack strength of 1. If you're attacking the alien, then you would destroy the ship, which means it goes back to the bottom of the deck, and gain 2 points. If you're attacking the player with a 1, then the ship would be destroyed. Fortunately, in this case, this ship goes back to your under construction area instead of being destroyed. And that's what would happen if you've got a 2 power against this card instead, because when a ship is damaged, instead it goes back to your under construction area. Some attacks, as you can see from this basic plan, it says for the 2 power, it says place 1 blockade token on any defender card. And what you could do is you can put a token on one of their cards, and it renders that card useless. You basically count that as a blank card. And you can see it says -1 money on there. So basically on your turn, you can spend 1 money if you've got any to ignore this blockade for a round so that you can use the ability of the card. Or you can spend an action removing blockage, which means you need to discard a resource from your hand that matches the colour. Again, planets for planets. And for every 2 resources you discard, you can remove a blockade counter. I said I'd mention what trading is, and trading is very simple. You take cards from your hand, resource cards. Again, you've got the assembly limit, so you can only do 2, unless you've managed to increase your assembly limit through abilities. Basically, all you do is you discard the cards. In this case, I've got 5 green resources, got to be of 1 colour. You would discard them and gain that much money, so I'd gain 5 money. So that is all the basic actions. I'm not going to go through all the player ability actions or all the actions. Well, there's so many actions on the cards, I'm not going to go through all those. I'm just going to go through these final 3 operational actions. And all that means is it's going to pay attention to all the cards that are operational, and you pay 5 of each resource. So it'd be 5 red to do the start offensive, 5 blue to do the gain revenue, and 5 green to do mine the planets, and it's going to look at every single card in your empire that is on its operational side. And basically you'll do what it says here. So when you start an offensive, you're going to attack with every operational ship in your empire. You choose one target, you draw a card for each ship, so maybe this one gets a 4, and maybe this one gets a 2, and then you resolve them as you would normal attack, but you're going to attack multiple times. In the gain revenue section, you are going to draw a card and basically score during the game section of each of your operational technologies. And when you mine the planets, you're basically going to produce one resource on each planet, and if the symbol matches, you're going to score a point. At the end of your turn, you can discard any number of cards from your hand, and then you draw back up, so you've got 3 resources in your hand, and play goes on to the next person. When this resource step runs out, you give it a shuffle, you move the round marker down 1, and play continues on as normal. When you're down to the last round and the deck runs out, you play round so everybody's at even turns, so the start player who's got the start player marker will denote who that is, and you play round so everybody's had even turns, and then you do scoring. You're going to be scoring points throughout the game, which you monitor on this track. You'll score 1 point for every card in your empire, every non-resource card in your empire. You'll score all your endgame scoring technology cards, and you'll also score your race card with your endgame scoring. Whoever's got the most points is the winner. Let's go to the positives and the negatives. So the positives, I really like the art. I mentioned I'm a sucker for a white box, but I do like the art on the front of the box. Saw it at Essen last year, I think, and it looked fantastic. These cards look great with them kind of very minimal, very white. You can see this picture here, which you don't need. All the text is here, it's easy to read. This symbol is actually quite important, and that's easy to read as well. You've got all the different races with all their different abilities, which is cool. They've all got different setups, and they've all got the different player powers and stuff, the different skills and the different ways to score points. That's all good fun. And the game is really quick. It's actually quite easy to teach because there's not really that much rules. A lot of the rules that say apply to the planets also apply to the technologies and the ships as well, so that once you've taught one, it's dead easy to teach the others. Because this side is basically the same for all of them. It's just this side it changes for each of the 3 things. And because you're only doing one action, then drawing cards turns are lightning fast. I actually put a picture up on Twitter. You can see that here. I put first game of Alien Artifacts underway, and Ignacy replied, 5 player to learn the game, really? Downtime. And there wasn't really any downtime. The only downtime we had is the fact that Themeless Steve was playing in our game. Now, he hasn't got AP, but he runs the board game cafe that we're playing at, the Dice Cup in Nottingham. So he had to get up during the lunchtime rush, and he was away for a good 40 minutes, which did kind of spoil the flow of the game a little bit, but as soon as he came back, we sat down and cracked on again, and nobody was bothered to buy it at all because it is a very simple, rules-light game with a lot of depth, really. Now, I'm a big fan of 51st State and Imperial Settlers, and this is similar to those, where you've got one side of the board, you've got the other side of the board, and you've got abilities, and somebody who owns both of those games, well, one person who owns one and one person who owns the other, said, yeah, it's very similar to those games. But the things I don't like about those games is when you attack other players, which you have to do, you kind of ruin their tactics a little bit. You remove stuff. I remember 51st State, you're trying to build this engine, but people are destroying your buildings, so you never really get going. I found that really, really frustrating. In this, you get attacked, yeah, but you don't really lose anything. You can lose more attacking than you can from being attacked, because you can lose your ships. I mean, you get these blockade tokens put on some of your better cards, but it's only 1 money to ignore it, which isn't much. You do have to waste an entire turn removing some blockades, which I did to A-Bomb in our first game when I attacked him. And he spent his first, I think it was actually his 4th and 5th turn, because he had to clear these barricades off before he got back to playing his game for some reason. I don't know why he felt the need he had to. He didn't have to, but I'm glad I slowed him down a bit. He ended up winning, so it didn't really matter. But that's all good. I mean, these defense plans are a good idea because people are sat with them in the hand and you want to attack them, but you don't know what they're holding. They're all quite different in a way. I mean, they're very similar, but they're all slightly different. You don't know which one they've got. You don't know whether to attack them or not. Which means if you are just relying on this basic defense plan, you do hold yourself open to being attacked. But players aren't going to score points by attacking you unless they get a 4. And a 4 is quite difficult to get. So, I mean, you do need to attack the aliens, because the aliens do give you points more often than not, and they also give you the alien artifacts cards, which I will get to in a second. Yeah, so overall, I really like the gameplay. I like the flow of the game, how quick it is. I like building up my empire, and I like sort of relying on my player ability. So let's go to the negatives. So I hated the rulebook for First Martians. I think a lot of people did, and it really put me off the game. It's in my sale pile. I just don't like it. So I don't know whether there was a bit of a hangover from that when I came into learning this game. I was kind of like, oh, this is going to be bad as well. I thought, okay, I'll just learn it and see what happens. So let's see how far I got before I started to go, oh, something's not right. So this is point 4 of the setup. It says place the alien system, but yada, yada, yada. This is called the available alien system. That makes sense. Point 5 then calls it the available alien target. So in one sentence, they've managed to change the terminology of a card already, and I'm only on 0.5 out of 12 for setup. I was like, oh, this is going to be bad. But actually, it wasn't too bad. I did manage to learn the game quite well. There's a few things that are issues. Lots of referring to the rule book during the game because it's just so vague and ambiguous. With all these cards, there's obviously a lot of abilities and a lot of things you need to cover and a lot of things you need to make clear. You need to dedicate some time to that in the rulebook because people have questions and people want to know, when can I do this? What's the timing for this? What does this ability mean? Because while the rules are very straightforward, the little rules on the cards themselves and abilities and stuff aren't. And it's just so frustrating that in 2017 we have to think about this in a rulebook. There are people who do this for a living, people like Paul Grogan, who do this for a living. I don't know how much he charges. I don't think he lives in a mansion, so he's not charging that much. But, you know, he's worth just getting people like that, people who are professionals, and just saying, hey, look, could you look over our rulebook? Here's a print and play copy of the game. Just test it and see what you think and see what questions you have and what would you change. Just give us some advice. Just find a rulebook consultant. I mean, it's just so frustrating. Speaking of frustrating, let's talk about the alien artifacts, shall we? These are the cards the game is named after, and look at that, that's very nice artwork. I love the artwork in this game, as I've said, but you do have to earn these alien artifacts cards, usually by attacking. Some races can buy one. I think you can buy one with all the races, but they all cost a different number of resources. And they all do very different things, so let's take a look at this one. So you draw 4 technologies, you choose one and add it to your under construction area and discard the rest. So that is basically, you know, 5 money's worth and 1 action worth of alien artifacts cards. And these cards you could play on your turn as a free action. So you can take your action and play one of these before or after it. So that's pretty cool. So basically that's a free action there, and you're getting a technology for free. So that's good. So that's, like I said, that's 1 action and 5 money that card's worth. But then I might get this one. You might get this one, which is draw 2, choose 1 and add it to your empire. Now you've got fewer choice. You're only choosing from 2 cards instead of 4. But you're adding it straight into your empire. So it's an action. It's worth 5 money and 5 resources. So that is loads better. The 2 extra cards you're searching for doesn't matter. It's not that important. You think, okay, you got to pick 2 and add them to your empire, and you got to pick 4 and add 1 to your empire. And then there's this one, which is just ridiculous. At the end of the game, you get 3 additional turns. 3 additional turns. That is 3 actions worth of stuff. Anything you need to do to win the game. The game's already ended. You can sort of see how many points you need. And you've got 3 actions. It is just so unbalanced. It's unbelievable. Even this one, which is take 2 buy actions, that's only 2 actions, and you're restricted to the action you can take. You've got to take buy actions, and that's worth 10 credits, which is fine. But then you've got this one, which is worth 15 credits. These are just all over the place. There's no consistency. The values of them are so different. It really ruined the game for us. And one person even said, we should play Exploding Kittens. It's got more gameplay. That's the level you're at with these alien artifacts cards. They are a bit like Flux, a bit like Exploding Kittens, where whatever you draw might win you the game. It's a massive letdown. That and the sort of the vagueness of the rules put people off. I really enjoyed the game as a whole, but is it worth keeping a game in my collection that nobody else wants to play? So that's Alien Artifacts. Please like this video if you found it useful, share it to let others know about it, and subscribe to the channel for more Game Day First Play videos as well as other board game related content. You can find me on Twitter at JTR Podcast, and find the blog and podcast at jtrpodcast.com. I've been Rob, aka Jester the Rogue, and I'll see you soon.